Over the last 10 years, Five Nights at Freddy's has seen its fair share of characters. There has been well over 100 characters that have been added to the mainline story. Some of the main characters are more obvious, where there are some mysterious ones that don't have a lot of background or context related to them. And there are some that we're still questioning even 10 years later. But there have also been a few that have been mixed into there that don't actually exist or not actual real characters that Scott Cawthon himself created. Every single one of these characters that we're going to get into in this list today is considered as a hoax or a fake character, and I consider it fake because it was not created by Scott Cawthon. So that's what we're going to look into today, the history behind the fake characters of Five Nights at Freddy's. Kicking off this list, we have one of the more infamous ones out there that was very popular whenever he came about on the internet, and that is none other than Sparky the dog. If you're unfamiliar with Sparky, he came around shortly after the first game released in 2014. As you can see in this picture right here, this image was revealed online showing what looks to be like a different animatronic character sitting behind the door of the employees only desk. While we don't get a very good clear view of who character this is exactly, a lot of people started saying that this is a secret character named Sparky the dog. As in the early days of Five Nights at Freddy's, a lot of people speculated that there was more than just 5 animatronic characters running around. While that is the truth that there was a 6th character originally planned for the game, Scott initially had a beaver animatronic that he was going to put in the game, but was removed because it was too similar to Chipper and Sons Lumber Co., and a lot of people speculated that that just wouldn't have been made for the game. So Scott later on confirmed that this picture that we see right here is a fake image, and there is no 6th animatronic character roaming around the pizzeria. This screenshot was deemed as fake, and Sparky the dog was also deemed as a hoax. However, this was not the end of Sparky the dog, as he would later on turn up in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Look can see in the behind the scenes images right here, he is an animatronic in the movie, as well as this one scene with him in it. And even going as far as to appear in one of the bigger Five Nights at Freddy's game out there in Fnaf in real time, as he is one of the animatronics that does come after you in the game. So while Sparky was not a real character or ever intended to be a real character, he was definitely put in the canon movie and was later added to some of the Fnaf fan games. Now, the second Five Nights at Freddy's has a long list of characters on there. There's actually 10 that you could get to on custom night. So that goes to show you how many characters were added to this franchise. And with such a long list of characters being added into here, it definitely exceeds the chances of hoaxes and fake characters being produced. And believe me, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 has plenty of them. Starting out, we have definitely the most popular fake character amongst the second Five Nights at Freddy's game, and that is easily the purple guy animatronic. As you can see right here, this just doesn't look good whatsoever and is very clearly fake, but for a long period of time some people were actually speculating that this was a genuine character throughout the game. Purple Guy was of course first introduced in the second Five Nights at Freddy's, so it makes sense that a lot of people would try to make an animatronic character off of him, but in this one all you can see here is the purple texture to his skin. It looks like the animatronic parts at the bottom of his feet, his little security badge, and of course his black eyes and with the white dots in the center of them. Of course, not long after this character was believed to be real, it was deemed as a fake character and was not mentioned in the game whatsoever, as in custom night he is not a playable character nor a character you could summon throughout the night. Not to mention, this literally is the exact same rendering of the Golden Friday character that we see in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, just put purple with little blood stains and a security badge on there. So not a lot of effort was put into this character or trying to make it look believable whatsoever, but that didn't stop a lot of people from speculating that it was real. However, this would not be the last of the purple guy that we see in the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 timeline for fake characters, as there was another purple man jump scare that was featured in the game. There was a very popular video that released where it pretty much talked about Purple Man, and you could see him at the very back end of the hallway where Foxy is typically standing when you flash the light. He gets closer and closer to you, and eventually he ends up jump scaring you, but obviously this was deemed as fake, as whenever you see the actual jump scare itself, it resembles literally nothing of a Five Nights at Freddy's character. Scott Cawthon does not really animate human characters within game. He does in many games, but not in in-game content. So it would make sense for Scott to not do this, and it makes it very clear that this was not a real character. However, there was some truth a little bit behind this next one that we're going to talk about, which is the Shadow Man appearing in one of the cameras. So this is very similar to the Purple Man jump scare that we end up seeing, as it is a silhouette of a human person. But in this one, he's sitting behind one of the cams that you could barely barely see. It's Cam07, and it's rumored that if you let the music box go off for too long, you will see a silhouette of this man, and he would come and jump scare you. Obviously, this is not real, but there's a little bit of truth behind it, as if you do let the music box go off too long, he will see a picture of the marionette pop up in this hall right here. I don't know if it's like a warning that he's on his way to come get you, or if it's just a little picture that's got added in there as an Easter egg. Whatever the case may be, you still can find this picture in there. But for a long period of time, a lot of people believe that the Shadow Man that you see was part of the game, and it was not the case, as this was added later on by one of the fan users out there. But while we're on the topic of Shadow characters, we did get two of them in there. We got Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie, which are mainline characters in the second game. However, there was a released Shadow Balloon Boy character that was put on the internet, and a lot of people had speculated that this was a real character as well. However, not long after this release, it was deemed as fake. There was no way to activate this character whatsoever in the game, and of course, he was not seen in custom night mode, so that's already 2 strikes, until eventually the video creator himself came out and said that this was not a real character, and this is one that he made up on his own. Now, this next character isn't necessarily a fake character, more of just a moderated one, and that is the puppet with a gray face and blue cheeks. There was a video that surfaced on the internet of a guy that was playing the Five Nights at Freddy's game, and in the 6th night, he was definitely hearing the music box go off despite winding it up. Then on the screen, you can see the text "Save Me," that sounds like one of the mini games, come up on there and spell it out letter for letter, and eventually leading up to the puppet's jump scare. But this one was a wildly different jump scare. As we did see a little bit of the regular puppet, we instead saw a grayish looking puppet with blue cheeks and blue lips. Now, what exactly is this character, and what good does he have for the franchise? Well, it's obviously a fake character, but a lot of people were very curious as to why this was put in the game. Well, as it turns out, it was not put in the game, and it was a fake rendering of the puppet. This didn't stop people from making different theories on how to summon this kind of puppet. If you were to do this, or click 1987, or different custom night modes, or whatever the case may be, a lot of people speculated that you would achieve this, but it was eventually deemed as fake, as this was a fan-made character and not a lane character. This next character is in the game, but there's actually a very fake asset to it, and that's the Endo02 jump scare. Endo02 is in the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 game, and he's in the prize corner. He sometimes comes out of the big box that the puppet is in, but whenever he does that, he only moves up to the vents and nothing else. He cannot kill you. However, there was a video going around of the Endo02 jump scare, which made a lot of people believe that Endo02 was a very real jump scare. While he is in the game, this jump scare is not real and is actually fake. Much like all the other jump scares with the Shadow God jump scare, the Purple God jump scare, whatever the case may be, these are all fake. But it didn't stop people from believing that he was a hidden Easter egg, that if you finally unlocked him, he would end up killing you. Like I said, in the game, but just not a real jump scare. And that's going to wrap it up for FNAF 2's fake characters, but we got quite a few more to go along in the later games. Starting with Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Oh boy, this game went through hell in terms of fake characters, hoaxes, and fake teasers. Everybody and their mama decided to make either a fake teaser, a trailer, something about the game that just wasn't true. But the biggest speculation of them all was from this poster right here. This was one of the first teasers we got for Five Nights at Freddy's 3, and a lot of people were wondering who this character was, as we had not seen anything related to this in the first 2 games. A lot of people originally thought that this was Fredbear, because this picture right here released was the other side of the face that we don't see combined into one picture, and a lot of people thought that it was going to be Fredbear, but obviously that was deemed fake. However, not that long after the teaser was released, did people pretty much debunk the Fredbear thing. Instead, another legend was born. Everybody looking at this picture came up with the name Salvage, also known as Fred Trap, and there was a whole character design that looked just like this. And while looking at this design, it's very clear that it looks like an unfinished Springtrap model, with the biggest difference being it looks like Freddy, a very withered Freddy, also with a top hat. However, this character obviously was not meant to be true, as whenever the trailer eventually came out, we did get to see Springtrap in his full force. However, it was very dark in the trailer, so we didn't quite get an entire view of what Springtrap looked like. Not only that, we also didn't get the name for Springtrap until the game ended up being released on Steam, which means that a lot of the fans came up with many different names for what this animatronic character could be. I mean, the very first teaser posted was saying, "I'm still here," and a lot of people obviously looked at this picture and couldn't quite tell who it was. And if we're being honest with each other, if you look at this image right here, this does not look like Springtrap whatsoever. I mean, don't get me wrong, it kind of does, but you could definitely tell there's some very big differences between the two characters. Now, obviously, whenever this teaser released, the game was still in production, and Scott Cawthon probably wasn't even nearly done with the game itself, let alone creating any of the characters. So, and it isn't out of the ordinary for Scott Cawthon to do this, as during progress of his games is whenever he releases teasers, basically like betas. And all these teasers are also very unfinished characters, so whatever you see in these teasers was not going to be the final product. But however, this being the case, a lot of fans speculated that it was a whole other animatronic besides what we also know as Springtrap. But there was still a lot of theories that were going around as to what this character really was. A lot of people speculated that it was a stuffed Foxy. A lot of people speculated that it was Fredbear, of course, and as we all know to this day, this is just not the case. Not long after the trailer had released, there was a little bit of gameplay shown in there, and in the trailer, we could clearly see the box full of all the old toy animatronics stuffed in there. So there was this image of fan art that was released on the internet. Right here, as you can see, it looks like a gigantic animatronic with different parts of other animatronics attached to it. The theory was basically this: the animatronic that's going to try to kill you in this game that's roaming around the facility is just a little endoskeleton with just a head on top of it. And what you were supposed to do in this game was not keep an eye on him, but rather keep an eye on the box full of toy animatronics in there. Because if you didn't look at it, he would eventually take everything that was inside that box out, put it together as to one giant creepy animatronic suit, and that would be the reason that you would end up being killed. This was a very far-fetched theory, and of course was nowhere near true, but that honestly wouldn't be a very bad idea for a Five Nights at Freddy's game. Ultimately, we all know in the end that it was Springtrap, and he has nothing to do with the box that's placed in the office, more or less just trying to kill you, and the only way to lure him out, of course, is steal the Balloon Boy's laughs. However, this did not stop characters from being created that were not real, and Salvage would have been a legitimately good character to be added into this game, and maybe not replacing Springtrap, but more or less being on the side of Springtrap. While we're staying on the topic of the teaser for Five Nights at Freddy's 3, a lot of people speculated before the Fred Trap animatronic that this is actually a Golden Foxy animatronic, and there was even some fan art made for it, not for the game, but obviously just to lure people in the wrong direction. A lot of people thought that because this looked a lot like Foxy, that it was going to be a golden version of Foxy. Like I said, Springtrap was not introduced, and this was the first we were even seeing of him, and he didn't even have a name until the game release. You really can't fault the fans for thinking that this was a Golden Foxy character, because the Five Nights at Freddy's fan base is very big, very popular, and has very strong opinions. So, not only that, very creative people. And the final fake character for Five Nights at Freddy's 3 is the Withered Bonnie making an appearance in this one. As we saw in the second Five Nights at Freddy's 2, Withered Bonnie was faceless. However, a lot of people speculated that for some reason Withered Bonnie was going to make an appearance in the third Five Nights at Freddy's, this time with a full face. They thought that he was either going to come out in full character, or not only that, he was going to come out and be a phantom animatronic. And there was an image that released online of this right here, which basically shows Withered Bonnie with his entire face. Now, if it isn't obvious enough, this is a fake image, and it was very noticeable for a couple of reasons. Number one, this looks like it was taken off of an iPhone XR. Second of all, this looks nothing or resembles nothing of the original Bonnie models or any Bonnie model, period. This literally looks like the Sonic the Hedgehog that was made before the film got completely changed. This is blatantly obvious to be fake, but despite all of this, a large amount of people believed that this character was going to be in the game, and they were very disappointed whenever it released, and they come to find out that he was nowhere near the game, and this was not a real character. Moving on to Five Nights at Freddy's 4, there wasn't too many fake characters made for this game, as everything is pretty much self-explanatory. This is easily one of the scariest games in the entire franchise, as you have to rely solely on your sense of hearing to be able to survive. There are nightmare animatronics in this game rather than regular animatronics, so they didn't have a lot of fake characters to go around, as they're just stuck to the main guns of the characters of the franchise. But there were still a few that were out there that ended up being fake. So the first one that we're going to look into is named Nightmare Spring Bonnie, and this character pretty much came around not long after the Halloween update came around in late October of 2015. This character right here was listed as Spring Bonnie, if you remember, is the suit that William Afton got stuck into in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Well, apparently there was supposed to be a new rendition of this character in the game, and were as a nightmare mode. And obviously this was nowhere near the case. Spring Bonnie, Springtrap, nothing of that sort was ever mentioned in the game, but for some reason it didn't stop this from becoming very popular and making people believe that he was in the fourth one, at least for the Halloween update. There was a few images released online, which are pretty much taken down right now, but these still surfaced and were pretty popular whenever they released. But while we're on the topic of Springtrap in the fourth Five Nights at Freddy's game, there was a couple of fake images of Springtrap being in the game with the nightmare teeth and pretty much the nightmare looking form. Now, don't get me wrong, we do get Plush Trap in the game, and it's a very smaller, creepish looking version of Springtrap, but the actual character of Springtrap is nowhere in the game. But that didn't stop a lot of people from making various fan arts or different character designs for Springtrap for what he would have looked like if he was featured in the game. Now, obviously, this character is fake. Scott Cawthon obviously did not want to include Springtrap in yet another game, so he decided to just remove him completely and not feature him in this game at all. And despite that, that's all there is for fake characters for this fourth Five Nights at Freddy's. And not only that, that's also going to wrap it up for this video. So if you guys enjoyed this video or remember any of these fake characters / hoaxes, go ahead and leave a comment down below. If you enjoy what you'll see, consider subscribing. I make plenty of content just like this. I love you guys to death, and I'll see you on the next one.